Now, welcome. So, the GAA Football Championship is properly on now. We are not just heating up, we are boiling. Quarter-final draw has been made. Monaghan Donegal, Tyrone against Dublin, Meath against Galway, Armagh Kerry. Our GAA coverage in the podcast with thanks to AIB. They're at the heart of Gaelic games across both club and county, and they are celebrating a decade of sponsoring the All-Ireland Senior Football Championships, and this year more open than ever. AIB more excited than ever to bring fans closer to the action. Check out hashtag the toughest for more. Happy to say here in studio we have Colm Keys. Colm, how are you?
Hi Joe.
A little bit under the weather.
Ever so slightly.
It's his gravelly sexy voice today on the podcast. Colin Doherty, hello.
Hello Joe.
And Philly McMahon, you're in studio again. Hello.
Hey Joe.
So I guess no great shock over the weekend just gone, which we'll come to in a moment. Wins for Dublin, Galway, Kerry, Donegal, and now we have our quarter-final draw. What do we make of it?
Oh, well, Philly McMahon, how close are Dublin? They go down to the championship now? I mean, it was Monaghan or...
Again, you can look at it two ways. We said last weekend Dublin v Cork would be... Somebody in this room said it'd be easier than it was, and I said it'd be a bit tougher. And I think they're going to get another good sparring partner this game. So, will they... everybody talks about Con when they're talking about Dublin's progression, but I think Paddy Small stepped up really well, and they're going to need him for Tyrone, there's no doubt. But if they can get by Tyrone, I think they will. It won't be as easy as probably a lot of people are thinking, but I think it'll be really good for them going into that next round.
I don't think anyone thinks it's easy.
Yeah.
No.
Everybody I've spoke to is kind of like,
Right.
they've missed out on the other big ones.
These are all the former Dublin players you talk with every day.
No, definitely not. People.
I think the
watch
rate
on
of
the gym.
improvement in Tyrone could be anything.
Yeah.
We still don't know that depth, how far they can go to.
Word on the street is they're growing beards.
They're just, I suppose they've had a similar season to Dublin. They have shown inconsistency. They've shown really good parts in terms of beating certain teams, but then they've been inconsistent. But so is Dublin. So it's a really good game. But what I suppose a lot of people are maybe judging this game off is who they've missed out on playing. Kerry, Armagh, Donegal, who are the kind of the big teams you want to miss out on.
Yeah. Armagh Kerry's the big one. We kind of knew this was coming. Obviously, it was the only way it could happen once those four teams won, and it was always likely they would. So this just promises to be an epic on Sunday in Croke Park.
I think so. It was an epic in the semi-final last year when the Met obviously went to extra time. I think Armagh are a better team than last year. I don't think Kerry are a better team than last year, and some of their key players are still finding their way back from injury and form. But obviously they have one player that just seems to be going to another level, even from the levels that he's at. Now, we will add the proviso, he is playing teams that are at levels below him. But David Clifford has really been carrying this team, taking them above the ordinary, as he did against Cavan with his second hat-trick of the year. It's quite clear that the additional bit of space that he's finding in attack with the structure rules, and especially on the break, are really, really suiting him. But I think Armagh come into this quarter-final this year a stronger team than last year. I think they're more adaptable to the new rules with the players they have integrated. And I just don't think Kerry are where they were last year. They have a lot of form to find, and those injuries have to be a concern.
Meanwhile, Galway and Donegal will whisper it quietly to themselves, relatively happy.
I don't know how happy Galway will be. That game was an absolute cracker, the game against Down, and probably come on to it, but they're not playing that well. I mean, Shane Walsh gets to the levels that we're talking about. I mean, the very reason that we say that people are always pointing the finger at Shane Walsh saying, why can't they get to that level? He does it. He finally does it against Down again, and I obviously did it against Armagh. Then he gets injured. Like, he had the most amazing 10-minute spell, and I think in 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, he had scored 1-3. They just went 7 points up out of nowhere, and he had scored 1-5. He was the total difference. Catches the kick out, drives at them again, gets fouled, and he injures his shoulder, and he comes off, and it's like, oh my God, can this guy not get a break? Like, and Galway are also changing their goalkeeper, and it's looking very inconsistent. And now they're playing Meath, who will be licking their lips at, I don't know, not saying that any of them will be going to the bookies, but the odds are 13-5. And like Meath have taken out Dublin, they've taken out Kerry. Like they're a serious team now, and they're massive around the middle. I know Galway are good there as well, but the way the Galway keeper is a problem. That ball's just going to go out and it's going to hang, and Meath are going to go after.
Yeah, it's fair, maybe because they've kind of done it on GA Go or GA Plus and not at all against Kerry. We're kind of underestimating them. And then Donegal have already beaten Monaghan this championship year. So that one we'll put down as they'll be happy-ish. No? Not even?
I'm afraid to write off Monaghan, especially this new Verve Monaghan. And Monaghan historically don't have any fear over Donegal. Remember, it was the Donegal-Tyrone Monaghan axis in Ulster, and Monaghan had a thing about Tyrone, and Tyrone had a thing about Donegal, and Monaghan had Donegal's number, not all the time, but they're not afraid of them.
Okay.
And I think they'll be coming in here thinking, you know what, they're going to write us off.
Right. So to look back, which will help us look forward, I suppose, Dublin 119 to Cork's 116. No Conor Callaghan, as Philly alluded to. Desi Farrell said afterwards he could have played, but bigger days ahead and all that. Paddy Small, man of the match performance, 4 points from play. Cork were leading with about 15 minutes to go, and then on the home straight, Dublin outscored them 4 points to 1 last 10 minutes or so. Was level at half time. So it was, that kind of a tit for tat kind of a game. How are Dublin feeling after that one?
It's a good question. I think, as an ex-player, I didn't expect anything different. I thought Cork would come at Dublin and would be confident to take them on, I still think Dublin, if they keep performing and growing, that they can get back to the confidence they need to possibly win an All-Ireland. But the question is, will time run out? If it's the next game or the game after, I don't know. Because the next game after that, obviously, to get to an All-Ireland final if they win that. But so I just don't know. It's a Dublin team that at the start of the year I was kind of like, this would be a tough year regarding the personnel change and the amount of new players in the squad. And in the league campaign, obviously, we've seen they had huge character coming back from big games, showed that they could perform in big games, but then in they've dominated in a couple of games, but they've struggled in others and showed a couple of weaknesses. And I don't think teams fear Dublin as much anymore. I don't think Tyrone will fear Dublin as they would. Like I would imagine if you were in a Tyrone, change room and you seen that you got Dublin in the draw years gone by, you would have been like, oh, right, okay, this is the biggest challenge possible. But now I don't think that's there, and it's up to those Dublin lads now to start to grow that back up again. Will it happen this year? I'm just not sure.
Yeah, there's definitely a human side to Dublin now. Like it's almost endearing. We talked the last day about how they like playing outside Croke Park, and I joked about that, but I actually believe that this team prefer the smaller ground and the tighter venue where they're feeding off the energy from the crowd, and the way they want to press and strangle teams and go after the ball and do that real honest work. I think it suits outside Croke Park, actually. I'm not sure how it's translating at the minute. I mean, you're scrunching your face.
Yeah, I think the bigger pitch suits them, but I do know what you're saying about the crowd and all that and stuff like that.
Because there's other elements to it as well, like the Conor Callaghan thing. I mean, I think years gone by, he would have been somebody we mentioned not being there, but it wouldn't have mattered. Like it wouldn't even know who'd step in, and it would be fine. Any one of those players could have come out and it would have been grand. But now they're like any other team. Kerry need Clifford, Tyrone need Canavan, Dublin need Conor Callaghan. I think maybe Armagh's the only team who can probably operate. I don't know who the main man is. Maybe Rian O'Neill, but they were operating all right without him. Shane Walsh with Galway, but Dublin are just like any other team where they need their main man playing. And also, I've been looking at the season that they've been having. They've been way better after they've lost. So it's almost like just a real team who need their backs to the wall. They need the finger pointed at them. They need to rise themselves and almost leaning into the emotional element of it that I'm sure Desi Farrell isn't doing. But I feel like that's when they're at their best now, and it's so far away. And obviously it is now. It's years gone by now.
There's a benefit coming from them playing a tough game through Cork, and Tyrone having a bit of a break there. I think that will stand to them. That they've had a good sparring partner.
If Con plays, that lead is that winning margin is doubled at least. I think he's that valuable to them. He just brings in honesty and just straightens the line for them every time. He just such a good decision maker on the ball. He creates those opportunities. He makes that difference.
And you have things now, like, and they're hard kicks, so it should be expected, but it wasn't expected again with the older Dublin team. Like, Costello's missing some frees, Stephen Cluxton's missing frees, and again, that's that chink in the armour now that you're just not used to. Dublin got a free, and Dean Rock stepping up, and it's a waste of everybody's time. Might as well just give him the point.
Yeah, there's a lot more specific roles that are now becoming kind of hybrid. Like,
yeah. Like Killian McGuinness, you go in there, but get back and you mark him, but get forward, and like everybody's having to do everything.
Were you impressed with Dublin?
To a degree. What I'm impressed with is that I think they're getting what's going to be close to their best team back. Once Conor O'Callaghan comes back, they obviously had Owen Murchan back the last day. He's a key player for them. If he gets another week, but crucially, if he gets another 3 weeks beyond the Tyrone game to make that improvement, to catch up to speed. Cian Murphy came off the bench, so I think they're inching closer to what their best team could possibly be out of available resources. And obviously, as I said there, Conor O'Callaghan makes a difference. Interestingly, it was the first game in the championship that they out 2-pointed the team this year. 1-0. Sean Bugler's kick, and a very crucial kick it was just before half time. Cork didn't score any, so that's the first time that they have out 2-pointed another team, and include Wicklow going back to Ockram in April with that as well.
Yeah. John Cleary, by the way, Cork manager, pretty non-committal about his future afterwards. My term's up, 4 years at it. Anyone will know it's tough going, but look, we'll see during the week or the week after, and we'll talk to relevant parties. What do you say of Cork? Another season.
Another season, and they were quite good in this match. I mean, they were very
good against Kerry at the start of the year. You thought maybe there's something here. Some people dismiss that as, that's what they do against Kerry. Hit and miss, and then a very credible, God, we can mix it with Dublin to an extent as a finale. So, what do they say? Yeah,
Chris O'Jones out and scores 1-4, and I'm always wary of a manager who comes so close to getting through the quarter-final. Imagine they had taken Dublin out in Croke Park and got through to the quarter-final, and that's the end of the road. Then I understand he's been going 4 years. It's almost like Andy Moore, gets Footballer of the Year, and then the talk is he's retiring. It's like, geez, would you not give it another year while the going's good at the minute? So Cork, you said it before the game, Philly, like they can mix it with the big teams. It's just putting the consistency together now. But going out to Dublin, I don't think is inconsistent.
Just in that twilight zone around the last 12 and the quarterfinals, in that middle part of Division 2. And they just seem to hover there all the time without making any significant stride forward. It's as if they just need to be electrified in some different way, that they're performed to a level, but they don't really go beyond that level sufficiently enough at any time. And look, they have one of the best midfield pairings in the game. They've played so often together over the last 3 years. Colm O'Callaghan, again, the last day, 2 points. He's been their most consistent player this year. He's been very good.
Okay, well, they bow out. The other game, I guess, which was touch and go towards the home straight, was down Galway, down 3-21, Galway 2-26. 2-point game with 6 minutes to go. You were at this one?
Yeah, I thought Galway were always comfortable here.
A bit like the Dublin thing.
Despite that, how it appeared, I always felt they were comfortable. They obviously hit a bit of turbulence with their goalkeeper, Conor Flaherty, who was good in the first half. He got his kickouts away pretty well with the wind. Then he encountered some trouble in the second half, skidded a couple off the floor out, one off over the sideline, another straight into down hands. And, the movement maybe among the Galway midfielders further outfield wasn't great. But they got Peter Cook on the field again to make a big impact.
What would you make of that? Just as a quick aside, substituting your goalkeeper mid-game.
It doesn't really happen that often.
No.
And it's a big move. But if it fell flat in its face, you'd be kind of going...
Well, I would say if any manager was going to do it, it would be Pádraig Joyce, because he doesn't stand on ceremony in taking anyone off, no matter who they are. If it's Paul Conroy, Shane Walsh, and the goalkeeper, I would have thought, Conor Gleeson probably has been Pádraig Joyce's preferred choice up to now. But Flaherty does deliver a better short range of kickouts for Galway, and he varies them up a little bit more. But given the pressure Conor Flaherty was under for that period in the second half, and he did weather the storm, to be fair to him, I think there'd be a temptation to put Conor Gleeson back on. I thought he might be coming in at one stage yesterday, which would be unusual. Can't say I've seen it happen often before, but I think he may be in from the start next time.
It's just an interesting question because I've been involved with teams before where you sort of wish you had just made that change because that is the position. It's very harsh on goalkeepers, but it's the position that could lose you any match.
Especially now with the new rules.
Yeah.
The kick outs are so dominant in the game.
So I think I would be a bit more ruthless. I'm not cold-hearted or anything, but just with that decision, and if you're having any questions over your goalkeeper and you think you've got a better alternative, I would just make it because otherwise you're. Like I remember Stephen Rochford before just talking about it. I didn't want to die wondering. You know, I loved that. I think it was against Dublin in one of the All-Ireland finals, and he just had tried something different. And he said, I just didn't want to leave the season thinking I should have done this and I should have done that. And like a goalkeeper change is such
Rob
a
Henley went in instead of Clark.
Might have been.
That was 2016.
That was a
so
disaster.
That was yeah.
He didn't want to die wondering.
Well,
no, he's not wondering.
Should have died over because it was a terrible decision. Poor Rob,
David Clark had been
he's flying
very good up to that, and okay, he didn't have that extra 10 yards, and his kickouts hung in the air. But I think that the nature of that change. I mean, you're talking about removing a very experienced keeper for also putting in an experienced keeper. And Conor Flaherty is a young emerging keeper. It's not that big a deal to put Conor Gleeson in what appears to be a crisis, but I don't think it's comparable to 2016.
That was an All-Ireland semi-final, was it? Or was it a final? Or?
It was an All-Ireland final in 2016.
Yeah.
So Rob Henley ended up with a black card. Not saying that had anything to do with the nature of the change.
Sorry, because I've just gotten eviscerated here, all right? Let's just... I'm saying if you have a problem with your goalkeeper, take him out and put back in Gleeson. So I'm saying put back in David Clark. That's the comparison that I'm making. If Rob Henley's having a stinker, get the guy back in.
Is it destabilising to lose your goalkeeper and to be chopping and changing in that position?
Yeah, if the goalkeeper's playing well though, or if the goalkeeper's not playing well, I don't think so. I think it's more destabilising.
It depends on the amount of games you've played with that goalkeeper that year. Like if you've had that goalkeeper in consistently throughout that year, then that partnership, particularly when the rules weren't what they are today, like it was more so that kinetic kick out was like you're running onto a ball, or it wasn't really here, boom it down the middle. Like
it is an issue, I suppose, for Galway going into this stage of the season, that you look at all the other quarter-finalists. You have Patton and Beggan, you have Cluxton and Morgan, you have Ethan Rafferty, who's been going very well, Billy Hogan from Meath has been going well, Shane Ryan. So you have some of the top keepers there, and then you have this indecision with two keepers in Galway. I do think they'll go for the more experienced man this weekend.
Yeah. On Shane Walsh, you alluded to it at the top of the show, Conan. There are injury concerns now over Walsh. He picked it up around 30 minutes into the game in the process of winning the 2-point free. So Joyce said afterwards, he got a nasty injury, fell forward, down player followed through with the knee on the shoulder. We'll have to insert quite possibly unintentionally there. So he's in a bit of bother with the shoulder. So we'll see. 8 touches in the first half, scored 1-5, assisted 2 other scores. All year I'm hearing people quibble about Shane Walsh. Oh, Shane, come on. What have you done for me lately, Shane Walsh? And all year I've said, will you relax? Give this guy a chance to get games into him, to come good. He's their main route to winning this thing. I stand by that. We got glimpses of it on Saturday.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep track of the days. And, well, I suppose they're going to be ringing the physio round the clock here to check how he's looking.
Yeah, I think he'd be okay. I think that's generally the consensus is he will be okay to play.
Okay, great. What about his performance?
His performance for that 10, 12, whatever it was minutes in the second quarter was fantastic. He had a slow start. He was a bit peripheral in the second half, but he put them in the position they needed to be in that quarter because they hadn't been going all that well. So he drove them on. His goal was superb. The catch, he took it round, he got inside, brilliant finish. They were after Ronan Burns, the down keeper, had stopped 2 chances just before that. He's another keeper that has been great all season, but was stepped up, asserted himself, showed leadership, and got the job done in that second quarter really impressively. And you mentioned, went out, caught the kick out, drove forward, kicked a great 2-point score. You know, he's playing very well. Yeah. Over the last 2 weekends, he's really, really come to the fore. And he's not afraid to shoot or worry about the consequences. And I think he has the backing of the management and all of his colleagues for that. And he feels very much reassured by that he can have those shots, that he's entitled. He's the shooter that can go for the ones that maybe nobody else can.
Yeah. It is worth saying the full forward line at large beginning to feel better about itself. Of the 226, they scored 118. So Finnerty, 6 points, Walsh 1-7, Matthew Thompson 5 points. Joyce afterwards was asked about this tricky period. He said, I've learned an awful lot about our players' character and their personas in those games that he's talking about of late. So I wouldn't say we were ever off track. So he feels pretty happy with how they're heading to Croke Park. Philly, I know you watched the game. What did you make of them?
I think it depends on where I want them to go. I suppose that the answer is to that question. Like, do I see them as All-Ireland contenders? If Joyce is saying they're on track to do that, I don't.
What are the biggest issues you're seeing with them?
I do think they've got really class players, but I sometimes think they don't play together. Like, sometimes I think they play individually, and maybe that's a good thing. Like, you know, but I do think they struggle at times when teams are running at them. They scramble back a lot. Like, but I think Joyce. I like the way Joyce has kind of mixed the team up a little bit as well. I think we mentioned Conroy being taken off and Cook coming on, and that they seem to be strengthening up their whole squad by doing those things. But it's different going and being a Galway player or Galway manager and saying, look, we tick the box, we're into the next round. They need to be playing at a higher level to be thinking of winning an All-Ireland. And the same with Dublin. And I don't see those two teams kind of thinking that way just yet. You know,
both running out of time a little bit.
Will they run out of time? Yeah, that's the thing. Like, and I just think if they get a big scalp, that trajectory could change the belief system of those two teams to win an All-Ireland, you know?
Yeah. It does kind of feel like to that point that we are entering this separate point of the season now. Quarterfinal, Croke Park, sprint finish. This is it. Like, depending on how it all transpires, you could forget an awful lot of this season and a team can just get into a mode, a Shane Walsh-inspired mode. That sort of feels available to quite a lot of teams in this draw.
Certainly feels available to Galway that they can put anything behind them now. I never felt they've been too far off here. You have to say that. They lost to Dublin by a point. OK, Dublin were probably a bit better than a point, worth more than a point that day in Salt Hill. Drew with Derry having edged it towards the end there. And then against Armagh put everything at them, as Down did. And they've withstood it all, and they are building character. And a lot of their players are starting to find form again that may have lost it. You know, when he was required, John Maher again stepped up at times in the second half. There.
Can we already stick John down for an All-Star?
I don't think he's at that yet. In fact, I think we'll mention Oran Murdoch for that possibility, even though they're not in an All-Ireland quarter-final. And we spoke about him here last week, you know, the ability of his hands and his movement.
What I like about Maher is when they're not going well,
he finds a way. He gets up,
and that is so
wins a ball. He crashes difficult. Into somebody. It's it's the Roy Keane thing.
He affects the game.
Crash into somebody to do something. And John Maher will often do that. He will often do something that will help to turn a game. So he is an interventionist in that way. Very, very, very much so.
But the fact that you're keeping Cook and Conroy out of that position, like they're going for the one position. He's nailed his position there.
Yeah.
And they're two quality players. Like,
but I'd say Joyce loves the character he's bringing.
He does bring a bit of rawness to that middle third area.
Things aren't going well. How do I affect it?
He's like a Dennis Bastick of the Dublin team years ago.
Big plus for Galway this year is Matthew Thompson. He's been superb for them.
Brilliant.
He's been really, really good yesterday. Creativity. He probably played more at half forward yesterday than inside. But he still scored 5 points. But just his calmness on the ball, he just always picks out the right pass.
This is his first year. It's ridiculous. Like, he's playing like somebody's been there 6 years, and he's going where he wants to go. He's like taking that upon himself. Like, I'll go out here and get on the ball and
there's a reassurance and a calm in Galway yesterday when Matthew Thompson had the ball, because you know he's going to do the right thing with it.
And he's setting up Finnerty constantly as well. So he's getting the benefit of. He's always going to be marked by the third best fullback because they have to. Because Finnerty's playing so well.
He said that in the interview yesterday, didn't he?
And Shane Walsh, he said he was was praising Walsh and Finnerty for playing so well. That's making it easier for him. But that's why. And he'd be licking his lips at the third best fullback coming.
Everybody will talk about Comer and Walsh and can we get them on the field at the same time. But Matthew Thompson has really, really advanced himself this year.
Yeah.
He certainly lessened the blow of Comer not being there so much. And he's a different player than him too.
I suppose to Colin's point, if you can get Walsh and Comer on the pitch, then the guy marking Thompson's going to be slightly lesser.
Yeah, but Finnerty's playing that well as so it doesn't
Finnerty
actually...
as well, yeah.
I mean,
So
marked by the
the other lads are
best.
stepping up because of the focus on the others, yeah.
So, sorry, are we back on board with Galway, or what are we saying here?
Oh, and this is it. Like, so I'm sort of saying Galway will get it tight against Meath, talking about Dublin's weaknesses, but I wouldn't rule any of these teams out. Like, I think the sprint finish that you're talking about, I think it's on. Like, you don't have to get to the 2017 heights to win the All-Ireland. Like, you have to be better than Armagh, Tyrone. Like, you have to be better than these teams now in the next 3 games, and I think Galway and Dublin can do that.
Meath's big weapon, and Jack O'Connor talked about it last week. We saw it against Dublin, breaking ball, winning possession. John Maher and friends, who's going to come out on top in that fight in the middle of Croke Park?
Meath are down a lot of midfielders through the year, long term. Ronan Jones, who played very well for them during the league, he's out for the season. He's had a lot of injuries. He brings a robustness to Meath. He's out at the moment. Jack Flynn, who was playing midfield, think he's gone for the season. I don't think he'll be back. A young player who was emerging, Jack Kinlock, was in around there. He's out also. So Brian Menton, who came back after 2 years, has come in there, and he's done pretty well through the round robin series. He's found his feet. So I think Meath will be up against it. I know there's an idea that they're a big, strong team in the middle, but I would see Galway as more formidable there.
Okay.
Obviously, they were up against it with Oran Murdoch in Newry yesterday, and it took all of them, all hands to the pump to break his dominance there. But I think Galway just might have a little bit more in the middle for Meath. Not saying that if Meath had everybody, it would make a difference, but I think they will be up against Maher, Matthew Tierney coming out there, Paul Conroy or Peter Cook, Killian McDade. That's a very formidable spread across there for me to be dealing with.
Kerry 320, Cavan 117 in Killarney, so a 9-point win. Sean O'Shea, Paddy Clifford get game time. Diarmuid O'Connor, repeat of reoccurring shoulder problem from the throw-in. Paul Gainey, Tony Brosnan, no game time. As you mentioned, Colm, David Clifford hit 3-7. Paddy Clifford did get off the bench, kind of 56 minutes territory. Cavan got it back to 4 points from 12 at one stage, but Kerry always in control of this game. Kind of, such as their lot in life. Jack O'Connor's responding to Dara O'Shea's piece in the Irish Times, where Dara said there is an air of inevitability about a quarter-final exit for Kerry. This is before the Armagh draw. Dara said, the biggest criticism Kerry people have of Jack O'Connor, he has not future-proofed the squad during his time in charge. Kerry team is now very similar to what it was when he took over at the end of 21. Jack O'Connor asked to respond. Yeah, he'd be better off doing a bit of coaching himself, he said at Dara. And then he talked about there's a lot of pressure on Kerry players from the supporters. It's just hard for Kerry players. It was a difficult environment for the lads to play football today on the back of the performance last week. It can be a difficult environment. So oftentimes it's easier to go to Croke Park away from home and express yourself and play without fear, play with a bit of abandon. I thought that's kind of striking that that's how Kerry view Croke Park, a natural kind of habitat. So with all due respect to Cavan, this is kind of another game for Kerry where they're not put to the pin of their collars, and now here they are against Armagh.
Well, if you go back to 2009 and how relevant this is, it's years away, obviously, but Kerry came through, plodded their way through qualifiers. They played Sligo, almost lost. I think they played Longford that year. No, that was 2006. But they played Sligo and they ended up in Antrim, just getting over against Antrim. And they caught fire against Dublin on the bank holiday weekend in 2009. And I think the game was over after about 15 minutes. And historically, they've been able to do that. But as I said at the outset, I just have my doubts about them, that the injuries, and while they may have players back on the field, they certainly probably won't have the Paddy Clifford of the end of the league, when lots of people were actually saying, well, who's the better Clifford now? I doubted that question at the time, and I'd still doubt it, obviously. He was playing very well at the time. He was playing very well. but there's no way he's going to be able to recapture that form this week just like that. And the same for Sean O'Shea. So they're concerns for Kerry, no doubt.
It is like the Armagh draw. Obviously, this is Kerry's first Division 1 team that they're playing now, all championship, and
which is a major disadvantage.
Exactly.
There's no way you can dress that up otherwise.
Anytime I talk about provincial structures, it's being unfair. Look at the journey that they've had to go on. I think it's worse for Kerry. I think it's way worse because they're coming in so cold now. Armagh are so battle hardened, and they've also had the 2-week break after all that battle hardness. This is not good for Kerry, and all the games, like even the games they've won, I know they got a test against Cork, but they've put them to bed. Like there's been 10-minute spurts, and then the game's been over. Even Roscommon, it got to the second half, the first 10 minutes, bang, and it was over. I think the Clare game, it was over after 6 minutes, and then that was a procession. And then this match, after 18 minutes, they were 10 points ahead. They won by 9. I know Kevin got it back, but they just stretched back ahead. And they haven't had to go to the well for 70 minutes, which they're absolutely going to have to do now against the All-Ireland champions. And they're coming in so cold to this, and it's for no fault of their own. And they would have liked it. It's on one hand, it's stark saying, look at this really great team not getting challenged all season, and other teams are getting put out of the championship, and that's not fair. But I mean, Kerry are just sort of sitting ducks here at the minute, and they could rise it like Colm's saying, and it is a sprint finish. They're in position now, but my God, they would have liked to have been getting a few sprints into the legs before now.
It was interesting to listen to David Clifford make the call for supporters to come to Croke Park too. There was, according to the commentary team on GA Plus, there was 6,000 or 7,000. I haven't just checked the attendance, but that's what it was around in Killarney, and they're calling for mass numbers to come to in support because they know they had the experience of the All-Ireland semi-final last year when Armagh, they must have outnumbered them 20-1 or something like that. It was just a sea of orange. You could barely see the green and gold in the stadium that day. And it had an impact. Jack O'Connor referenced it afterwards. And when he was being presented with Man of the Match award, David Clifford also referred to the crowd and the need for them to make their presence felt in Croke Park next weekend.
I think that's a worrying thing. Like a player coming out and asking for fans to show up. Like surely they have somebody there from a PR perspective to say, right, this is the message we need to get out there. For somebody to say that, I think it's madness. Like you're totally getting involved in an uncontrollable, you know. And my big thing with Kerry is over the years they could have went through a season where they've played easier teams, but once they knew Dublin was still in the championship, that was their energy. That has changed now. Like it's not really like when Dublin, Kerry, possibly Mayo were the kind of the three teams that were getting to the latter stages, and Tyrone then before that. That's different now. You've the top table obviously is Donegal and Armagh at the minute, and at some stage of the year people were saying Kerry. So I don't know what motivates them, but if they're coming out talking about uncontrollables, like let's get more fans, like where's your focus gone there? Like should you not be just focusing on what you should be doing, what you need to work on, and how you can expose Armagh instead of talking with fans? I think
it is a factor about the Armagh support and the level of it. I think
players should never be thinking about the fans.
I really think it is, and I think it's probably something that they're feeling. So I'm not so sure it was the unwisest move in that regard. I think Kerry people might respond to it. Armagh illuminated Kerry in 2006 before as well. They came from nowhere to win that quarter-final. So they have a habit of just arriving in Croke Park and pulling a performance.
They wouldn't.
That
Colm,
crowd,
they wouldn't be the most decorated, like the most decorated team ever, and yet they wouldn't have the biggest fan base.
No, they don't. But then I suppose
so
it's
all those years they've won it. Like it wasn't because they had a certain amount of fans in the stadium. But I understand what you're saying. Other fan base that are bigger does have an impact, particularly in certain times of a game, particularly in the melting pot when they need that energy.
Yeah, I really felt last year they felt it, but I felt coming down the home straight when the pressure came on. That wall of noise from Armagh, it's a factor.
Yeah, but the momentum in that moment was more important than the noise, because that's what got the noise. So you change the momentum in that game, the noise changes.
And then the noise creates more momentum. So it's the momentum will come from the noise after that as well.
It's an interesting psychology, isn't it? In Kerry, though, like you have Dara O'Shea's article, on one hand, Kerry people like coming out and the era, like you say, telling us, look, we're just happy to be involved in this championship. You know, we're not going to don't look too much into the Kerry. internally, they're holding players up to this mad standard that it's almost impossible to meet, and like that's the pressure that they're meeting within the county, but outside the county to put out the message that they're just little plucky Kerry.
It's not the first time this has happened, is it? Like, was it Paddy O'Shea that came out with something about the fan base being so,
Animals.
Yeah.
Toughest animals.
I didn't want to say it.
Expletive in the middle of it as well.
But yeah, like, so it's a pressure that's like no other, I think. When I visit, I go down to Kerry, me and myself and my son and my wife two times a year, and it's only when you're down there you realise the pressure's down there. People talking about who's the next manager in. Geez, you wouldn't want to take that job.
Yeah, it does speak, I think, to a sense that they feel they are going in here as second favourites, and they need to harness every advantage they can possibly muster. And I'd say David Clifford, the whole team at large, can already imagine the atmosphere on Sunday. 40,000 orange jerseys, completely outnumbered, wall of noise, and a sense of, Jesus, we were already in trouble. It feels even a bit worse now. And I appreciate your point, Philly. That's focus on the externals and the uncontrollables, and that doesn't matter. But like in their heart of hearts, I think they know they're up against it, and anything they can harness to recreate a kind of startled earwigs atmosphere of a day.
That's taking their energy. Them thinking about the crowd is taking their energy.
Well, hopefully he said it. From his point of view, you say it, you put it out there, and then behind closed doors you say, I don't care if they turn up or not. Look, I threw it out there. Maybe they'll come. Maybe it influences the referee. We're not talking about the fans for the rest of the week, but I just threw that message out there. But if they're spending all week going, geez, I wonder, have you heard how many tickets are being sold? What have you heard? Well, we get 15,000. Then they're doomed. I appreciate that. But look, I don't think it's a great thing. I think it does speak of an insecurity about how Sunday could go. Like, done in the stands, done on the pitch, just this momentum that Armagh have in every aspect. And he's just doing what he can. Could you imagine if Kerry walk out and, Jesus, there's 30,000 of us here. Might give you something in the warm.
What happens
it's worth
if it's
a shot.
not, though?
Well, that's the...
What happens if you go out and you say, we want your
I
fan
don't think
base
he
to show
says
up,
it.
They don't.
Yeah.
I don't think he says it if it's any other county, only Armagh. I don't think if it's Tyrone or Derry, the crowd is a factor to Kerry. Even Dublin, they expect that. That's what they expect when they come up to Croke Park to play Dublin. They know what it's going to be like. But I think the experience of last year's All-Ireland semi-final, and especially through extra time, stuck with them. Because I remember Jack O'Connor's press conference afterwards, and it was something he referenced.
Right.
So it comes from that.
I think there's too much noise seeping into that group. That's what I think. And I think it's a really bad thing. I think you're talking about, I'd say the Darragh O'Shea thing, maybe they've brought that into the change room and said, right, prove him wrong, but that's bringing outside noise in. And if you're letting little holes leak out energy-wise, I can tell you now, you're going to take the foot off the pedal when it comes to what you should be doing.
Yeah.
To be fair, in relation to Darragh O'Shea, it's probably something some of the journalists just asked him.
He was asked about it. Jack may not have even
I wouldn't
seen
even
the piece.
think he referenced it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say he referenced it himself. I'd say he was asked, and that was his reaction.
Yeah. Like, we don't know how much noise they're letting in, really, because it's just largely been involved in games which have been so off Broadway. Like, it's hard to have a feel for them this year, you know. What's your sense of why they're letting in noise, or why do you say that?
I've never seen a Kerry man come out and say we need more fans to show.
It's based on the fans thing, okay.
You know, but I do think it's something that the reason why it's an uncontrollable is if he says we need more fans, that's going to help us. That's going to give us energy. Instead of saying, do you know what? Wouldn't it be amazing that when we do the right things, that the Armagh fan base is going to be so quiet? That's an optimistic kind of view instead of pessimistically going, we need more fans. And you go out like Kerry. Kerry have been dominant. You know, the most decorated again. I'm saying it again, but they've never had to think of competing on the fan base side of things.
Yeah, there's a degree we need every help we can get. So if you were in that group, I suspect your vibe would be treat this as going into hostile environment. We're going to quieten that crowd.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to play this Armagh team.
We're going to have a quiet Croke Park.
Imagine keeping them so quiet and
an away fixture.
And we've got a chance to rectify what happened last year.
Of course, when he said it, he couldn't have known it was definitely Armagh and Kerry.
True, okay.
I'm sure he was projecting that far.
So is everyone tipping Armagh to win that game?
I'd
On
be
Philly
Armagh.
after all your talk there, Armagh by 10?
I'm still not saying like that. Like, I think it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be. There's going to be loads of facets of a game that I'm going to be interested in, but I definitely wouldn't. I've said here last week saying I wouldn't wipe Kerry off. Like they've always been very smart in their psychology in terms of what they've said in the media and stuff like that. And
Well, I thought you just don't hate what they just said in their psychology.
I did, yeah.
Okay.
But they've always been. I won't mention the name, the Q, whatever. But they've always played themselves down, which is really good. I like that about them. They've been smart at that over the years, but we've just got used to it. And right now, they're kind of saying, "This is it. This is the shot. Go for it. You beat Armagh, then let's see what happens after that." Like, you know, so they can look at it as a, "Oh my God, I don't think Kerry people will look at Armagh and say, do you know what? These are the All Ireland champions in front of us. They're All Ireland champions of last year. Yes, we're Kerry, and they have this." Presence and confidence that's probably been eaten away a little bit by the outside noise, but I do think they still, as Kerry people, traditionally, they will look at this and say, "What a great opportunity to beat Armagh right now."
So you're saying?
I'm saying Armagh, but it's going to be close.
Yeah, you said Armagh. I just cut you off there.
Armagh, yeah. 1 to 15, Kerry should be okay within reason. 15 to 20, Armagh gain an edge on a lot of teams.
Okay. Conan, they walk out. There's 60,000 Kerry jerseys there.
I need to know how many fans.
Yeah.
Heads of the fans.
That's tough. Like they've been favoured for the All Ireland all year in just the last few weeks.
Yeah.
And they've an injury crisis. Diarmuid O'Connor not being fully fit. It's a big.
I think what got me with the comments after the Meath game from Jack O'Connor just saying
Yeah.
we're just way off in terms of attitude, worrying.
Yeah.
And the injuries.
And I know, all due respect to Conor Callahan, Philly, but they have the best player in Ireland as well. Like, you know, and if he hits it, which he could,
Yeah.
it's 11v11 at Croke Park. He could score a hat trick again. Like, it's not going to be like a 15-man defence that could just keep him quiet. Like, he could still score a hat trick if he has one of those days. They could win. It's hard to write them off fully. I don't know. We'll sit in the fence and call it a draw.
Goes to extra time.
Yeah.
Who wins in it after that?
Yeah.
How many fans are staying for extra time?
Depends on the noise.
Yeah, Donegal, just to mention, loud 16-point win in front of 15,000 in Ballybuffet. So 5-1 after 15 minutes. Between minute 40 and 54, they scored 1-9 to a point. That really killed the game off. And then they got people off the pitch. Ryan McHugh, 49 minutes off you come. Michael Murphy, 50 minutes off you come. Etc. They had 12 different scores, pretty much always in control. Loud issues getting to the ground. I mean, you think Athlone to Dr. Hyde is bad. Enniskillen, overnight, an hour away. The bus left Enniskillen, ended up in Sligo before they realised they had taken a wrong turn. Took them 2 hours, 20 minutes to get to Ballybuffet. They arrived 3:15 for a 4 o'clock throw-in. They requested throw-in be denied. Who do they have to request that of? The GAA?
GA, yeah.
And GAA don't turn to McGuinness or get...
I don't think so. I think that would be a decision of the event controller.
Okay.
Who would be in communication, obviously, with the games department. So I would think, well, if there was a crash on the road or the bus broke down, the fact is you took it wrong way, that's on you.
Okay.
They could have put it back 10 minutes.
And that's a bad road, let me tell you, from Enniskillen to Sligo is not a good road.
Yeah.
I feel like the Dublin team in their pump wouldn't have put it back either because you're preparing to the minute for 4 o'clock.
I can tell you now, we would have planned for any eventuality. So
like,
we would have
why are you
spoke
planning
about
for the other team taking a wrong turn?
we would have spoke about a game being delayed. We would have spoke about if the bus breaks down, what do we do? We would have spoke about all of those what ifs. Yeah, we would have.
Yeah.
But do you know what fascinates me about Donegal? It's crazy the aura that they're creating right now. Like, I was chatting to a Donegal fan at half time. I was like, geez, this is tight enough. Like, and he was like, don't worry. It's a fan. Kevin Sweeney texts me back, give him a mention. He says, don't worry, Philly. I was like, even the fans now. But even the fact after the game, the players running off the pitch when the fans were coming on, I was like, there's not maybe in that you might think, but for me I was kind of like, they're thinking of every angle, like, you know, and every inch they can get, they're going to take.
Well, that was the thing
It wouldn't
last
surprise me if Donegal said no to
Yeah.
5 or 10 minutes extra.
Yeah, I would have said no.
Maybe, because if you remember last year, they had a big game, and this, McGuinness, he's been consistent in his themes. Like after the game yesterday, he's saying, this is our 8th game. It's a hell of a lot in 12 weeks. It's so attritional, schedule's grueling, etc. Last year, they literally, mid-Ulster Championship, they had the players off the pitch on the bus.
Right.
Gone.
Like
And
for ice creams.
Fans were still on the pitch. Recovery started.
I was against Tyrone in the
Tyrone.
first round of the round robin last year.
That them getting off the pitch against Louth, that is the most Jim McGuinness. We're in recovery mode the second this is over.
And the subs walked off during the game.
Yeah.
The subs actually walked around. You
Yeah.
could hear them getting a round of applause. Scientifically, sports science-wise, do they get much of a benefit to running off the pitch, to spending an extra half an hour, maybe an hour if you're Michael Murphy,
Yeah.
signing autographs for kids? I don't know. The science, it's an hour probably,
It's a
we
psychological thing.
never ran off the pitch.
No, it's psychology.
Yeah.
That's what
it is. Big
It's-
time.
It's
Yeah.
the preparation. We're tune in, no celebrating, no nothing.
Yeah.
We're on it.
And I don't think there is any, because on one hand you could be like, oh, just sign the autographs, and people were criticising Michael Murphy last week for running off the pitch straight after halftime, and all these children are running towards him. But these boys give so much time, and they have the training days, and they have bigger days ahead. They'll have training days where fans can come down and spend more time with them, and they also have buy-in from the whole county.
They visit every school when they've sounded.
Exactly, I know, but the whole county's looking at them like the aura you're talking about, Philly, and they're like, yeah, look, they know what they're doing. Leave them at it.
What did you make of them, Philly? Are they in good nick?
They are still the same as they've been all year. They're just calm, composed, no matter the score. Like now, like Louth's done well, and but it just felt like that Louth they realised where they were at.
Yeah.
As particularly after halftime. Their scoring is like they're very hard to stop in terms of the range of scores they have. They're kicking the lights out, and even like Murphy was quiet, and then all of a sudden he kind of misses a few shots and has a foul in inside inside his full back line, and then goes up and kicks a 2-pointer, not bothered. So if you were to look at it from a performance point of view and say, well, where are Donegal benefiting most here? Is it the tactics? Is it the technical side? Is it the physical or the mental side? They are so play-by-play driven. Like their mindfulness is just at the top level now, I think.
Right.
The squad is so strong, and it's just, I find it very hard to see a team out there defensively able to stop them.
I feel like that stems from a total, utter faith in Jim McGuinness. It's like Jim told us we do it.
Yeah, I think we've mentioned him a lot in these podcasts, and the siege mentality culture he brings. Jim, what I would say about him is, right, there's teams that you can assume will constantly go after strategy. And if you do that, then you probably are missing the beat. And I think he drives a vision, and that vision drives the strategy, and like the vision and the purpose of the group. That's what I think he does. So the culture is strong in Donegal, I would imagine. I'm not in the change room, but I would imagine the culture is strong. And you'll see other teams that just don't have that, right? I think some teams are getting that. Like, I'll give you an example. My feeling would be Down. Like, Down are really good, are growing, are progressing, but maybe they're missing that higher purpose or that vision of or maybe they have it, but they're just not, that gap between doing it and actually seeing that is just not there just yet, But I do think Donegal, the part in between, are doing it really well.
Okay.
I think different players can do it for Donegal on certain days. That really helps them. It was Finbar Rorty yesterday. Oisin Gallen came back to form. As you said, Michael Murphy was quiet. So they have that capacity that different players come in at different times and just elevate them, lift them. And their running power from the back is just exceptional.
But it's relentless as well. Like boys are making 100-meter runs knowing they're not going to get the ball just to take their man up the pitch, and they're doing it with pure intent and pure honesty. And it's the belief as well. They have the belief because to do the running. I mean, McGuinness during COVID, he was talking before about his approach to training, and just you're going to be here 3 nights a week anyway. So like, why would you not just bottom out? Was his words. Like, why would you not just give everything while you're here? It's the same time commitment for your family and for yourself. And then once you get fitter, you can get fitter again, was his way of thinking. And then boys get more belief off that. And I remember Kevin Cassidy, in terms of your vision that you're talking about, Philly, spoke about Jim McGuinness ahead of a Dublin match, pulled up a presentation and just said, "This is Dublin, and this is how we beat them." And that language, like, and that vision, and how they're approaching a match.
Not how we might beat them. They're beat them.
This is. I'm going to tell you everything that's going to happen.
And even Patton had a long kick to Murphy, led to a goal. All that stuff's working. So, am I right? Are we all saying, and jump in if you're not saying it, Armagh to beat Kerry, Dublin to beat Tyrone, Galway to beat Meath, and Donegal to beat Monaghan? With the nagging sense of the back of your mind, there's going to be a shock somewhere. Is that what we're saying?
I wouldn't be just as certain about Dublin beating Tyrone.
Okay.
I think, I'm not sure the level of improvement in Tyrone, but it's there. There's a possibility that they could go higher.
Yeah.
Will it happen this weekend?
Did you see Colm Collins had said that the people haven't exploited the rules enough yet? He was involved in the FRC. Well, Malachy O'Rourke was involved in the FRC, and he's returned.
Croke Park, faster pitch, different game, etc.
I would say I can't. Like, I'm obviously biased towards Dublin. I see Dublin getting over the line, of course, but I do think Monaghan will cause problems.
Problems to the extent of beating them?
There's something that wants me to say yes, and then there's something that still think, God, we can get over the line, but I just don't know.
Donegal, you mean?
Sorry, Donegal. Yeah.
Donegal were comfortable in that game in their Ulster quarter-final in Clonus. Monaghan came back a bit at the end. Monaghan have probably picked up through the qualifiers, but I'd see that as comfortable, relatively comfortable. For
do you know what? I love Monaghan's, the way they attack the game. Because I don't see a team beating Donegal because they close out Donegal's offensive play, because I don't see a team out there doing that. But I do see a team outscoring them.
If you go toe-to-toe.
And I just think Monaghan have a bit of a
lot of pace
about
their team.
Yeah.
A lot of pace, especially up front.
Yeah.
So high scoring affair, possibly? That's the way Monaghan win that one?
I think Donegal are going to have problems keeping O'Hanlon quiet. They will go after him as a key threat. I'm sure they'll go after Brannigan as well.
Okay.
But yeah, I do think they'll cause them problems.
Fellas, we're done. That's great. So quarter-final weekend is here. I mean, before you barely breathed from weekend just gone, and we're into quarter-finals now next weekend. So we might reconvene next week and make sense of it all. Big thanks to Philly McMahon, to Colin Doherty and Colm Keys. Cheers, fellas.
Thank you.
Thank you.